but I made a little bit over $600,000 my first 12 months. Are you okay with those numbers?
Oh, absolutely.
Really what that means to you is that you can do the same thing.
I'll be careful with that. For compliance reasons, we do not want to with compliance. It's a bit of a dangerous thing to do. Is Jeremy Minor legit? We'll take a look at one of Jeremy Minor's sales calls to find out. Now, I was a client of Jeremy's. I was trained by him and his top trainers, then got recruited to come sell for Jeremy's company's 7th level, where I became one of his top producers. I know his techniques, I know his moves. Some things Jeremy's doing here, most sales reps might be able to catch, but most things, most sales reps will completely miss. We'll break down every word that comes out of this man's mouth, how he manipulates his facial expression, his tonality, his body language, why he's doing it, so he can go steal it and close more deals.
Scott?
Yeah, how are you, Jeremy?
So the prospect recognized Jeremy's by his name. So this is probably some sort of follow-up call. Maybe they made it like an in-person thing and they're having the sales call to have a previous call before.
Just being boring. What are you doing?
People might have heard like just being boring. So people think that Jeremy's doing this just to be funny. He's not doing this just to be funny. This is for a very meticulous reason. So the reason why Jeremy's doing a stupid joke here, and I don't mean stupid in a bad way, it's just like a kind of like a silly joke, right? Oh, just being boring in a playful tone, is it's gonna make the prospect laugh, like we're gonna see in a minute. So the prospect laughs. What does it do? It disarms the prospect, because one of the biggest problems that people have in terms of closing deals is that prospects simply don't trust you. Why? Because you're a salesperson, just like Wolf of Wall Street, right? Why would they trust you? And they just met you 5 minutes ago, 1 minute ago, 10 minutes ago, however it may be. And so people need to be able to trust you to open up about their true problem and their true desires and their true situation. Whether that be them being overweight, or them being not making enough money, or their business is struggling up and down. And so they have no reason to open up to a salesperson they just met 1 minute, 3 minutes ago, okay? So you're just doing this to start to have him feel more comfortable around him, to open up truly about his real problem, real desire, so later on, what? He's gonna buy.
Being boring.
You know, staying out of trouble. Are you freezing out there in Alaska?
Oh yeah, that's getting colder too. This weekend we're supposed to be below 0 for our highs.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so hey, tell
So what he did was he did a quick banter here, and then what he's gonna do is, as you've seen, he's gonna go into the actual sales call, okay? Now, most sales reps fall into one of two categories, okay? Usually, people just do a whole lot of fucking small talk for no reasons, like 2, 3, 5 minutes of small talk. Hey, where are you calling in from? How's the weather over there? This is a sports game. And so when you do this, it just, number one, drags out the whole call. Like a lot of people, when they hop on the call, they're like, yeah, let's, like, we know why we're here. Let's get to the point, right? So they may say like, oh, you know, I just got back from the gym. Then they kind of like reluctantly answer it, but they know that you don't really care about like how their day is going, so on and so forth, right? So that's number one. And number two, some people is they go into the call right away, right? Which can be too abrupt for most people. So Jeremy's doing like a quick banter here, and then he's gonna go into his first question.
Tell me again. I think I'm developing Alzheimer's here. What did you say you do for a living?
So that is called a situation question. So Jeremy obviously uses NEPQ. I use a mutated variation of that. A situation question is understanding what they're currently doing to get the outcome at the moment, okay? So because Jeremy asked, what are you doing for a living now? This is probably either, and I know the context behind this, you would ask that question in a biz op sale or usually some sort of recruitment or MLM offer. So a biz op is basically helping 9 to 5 people start a business, so on and so forth. So you'd want to know the context behind what they're doing for a living to uncover the problem behind what they're doing for a living, which is what's going to make them want to start an Amazon store, whatever business, okay? In like a recruitment offer, whether it be like for staffing, maybe for insurance, you'd also want to know, right, what they're doing for a living to find a problem to go work for a different company or go into insurance, so on and so forth, okay? I know from my understanding, this is an MLM convention because at one point, Jeremy used to sell MLM, multi-level marketing. So he'd want to know what this guy's doing, I believe his name's Scott in this prospect, to uncover what is a problem within their work, therefore they'd want to go into this MLM thing to make more money or whatever it may be. Now, also another thing too, if you notice, he said, I think I'm developing Alzheimer's here. What did you say you do for a living? The reason why Jeremy said this, again, is for a purpose, okay? Because the context is, Jeremy and this prospect probably talked before. And so this prospect probably told Jeremy what they do for a living. Jeremy is just using this as an excuse to go into their situation, their problem again. Because I don't know what happened in the previous interaction with this prospect, but Jeremy probably talked about what this guy does for a living and what the problem with is. Now, the problem is when you go into a second call and a follow-up call, after the first interaction, their emotions go up because this gentleman probably told Jeremy about, yeah, my work is not good. But after that, emotions subside. Emotions are not permanent. Emotions are temporary. So emotions go down go cold again. So Jeremy's using I think I'm developing Alzheimer's here. What did you say you do for a living? As an excuse to have him talk about his problem again, okay? And he's saying that I think I'm developing Alzheimer's here. It's like kind of funny, and people get it. You know, if you don't say, I think I'm developing Alzheimer's here, then people are gonna be like, oh, I told you before, right? They may say that or they may think that. But Jeremy's doing this in a way to, it's more like a reasonable excuse. You can also subside as like, dude, my girlfriend says I have like the worst memory ever. My mom says I have the worst memory ever. What did you say, da-da-da? So you can go into the thing and then reprobe and resurface his pain again.
I'm a police officer.
You're a police officer. Okay, and how long have you been a police officer for?
So he's going to how long he's been a police officer for. If you notice, he didn't say, okay, for how long have you been a police officer for? You notice he stuttered and paused on purpose. He didn't do it because he forgot what he was gonna say. Jeremy said that exact fucking questions for 2 decades, right? Probably tens of thousands of times, right? It's just like Steph Curry shooting a 3-pointer, right? He shot it so many fucking times, he can do it with his eyes closed. But if he said, here's the problem is like, if you know exactly what you're gonna ask and you say it too smoothly, it's gonna sound scripted. And so in the prospect's mind, they're gonna shut down, right? So yeah, how long have you been a police officer for? That's typically how people talk in a normal interaction. Sometimes you kind of pause and think what you're gonna say, right? So it comes off less scripted.
About 21 and a half years here in Anchorage, and then I was a cop in the Air Force for a little over 7 years. So
Oh, you were?
about almost 29 years.
So you see how Jeremy's saying there's like little ad libs here and there as the prospect's talking? Oh, you were? Oh, okay. Jeremy calls it a verbal cue. I call it a back channel. So back channel is a linguistic term where as the other person's talking, you say those like, okay. Right, you say those things, not every like 2 seconds because that can be too excessive and a bit annoying. But you say it if you want to be technical about it, every 7 to 10 seconds or so. Because if you just sit there in silence like this, and you do the typical sales guy thing, which is like, gotcha. And how long, it sounds super scripted because do you talk like that with your best friend? No. Like if my friend came into the house right now, let's say he got back from a date. I was like, hey man, how was the date? Like, yeah, it was good. We went out to go sushi. And I go like, gotcha. So what I'm hearing is that you went out for sushi with your date. It's gonna be fucking weird. But if you go like, oh, okay, how was it? It sounds a lot more conversational, and the less you sound like a bot, the less you sound like a robot, obviously you're gonna open up. Problem is, most sales reps do this. There's a gotcha. And that sales guy thing, which makes you sound like a bot and not a human, and prospects start to shut down. That's when they start to give you vague answers, shorter answers, not opening up. At the end, what happens? Let me think about it.
Now, I don't think I've ever asked you when we talked each day, are you on your own or do you have a family you're taking care of?
Now, he's going to, are you on your own or do you have a family you're taking care of? A lot of people look at that as if, oh, Jeremy's trying to pre-handle a partner objection. Jeremy's trying to find out if they have a spouse, and then if they have a spouse, he's going to try to pre-handle it. It's actually not that. Do you know why he's asking this question? The reason why Jeremy's asking this question is to find out their household income. Because what's one of the biggest reasons that people don't buy on a B2C type of product, like business to consumer, like a biz op, fitness offer, so on and so forth? They don't have the fucking money. So it's called a logistical money objection. So they don't have the fucking money, even if they want to buy it, even if you've done everything you could on the sales call. And so what Jeremy's doing here is like, hey, do you have your own, do you have a family you're taking care of? Because if they have a spouse, what Jeremy's gonna do is he's gonna get both of them on board to get the money combined to be able to sell them, which is how Jeremy crushed it in B2C when he was selling MLM and other B2C products.
I have a wife and I have 7 children.
Holy cow. What does your wife do for a living?
So you want to do that from here and there. It's like, holy cow, 7 children. It's like, oh, you got a handful. Which makes it sound like a human. He's laughing again. He's feeling more comfortable, right? Now, there comes a point where you want to start doing those jokes and to have more weight in the conversation. But we're still early in the conversation. We're like 58 seconds in. So it helps to do like, joke here and there as well as coming off conversational. And then as you see here, he's going to ask the question.
What does your wife do for a living?
Right? What does your wife do for a living? Why else would he ask that if he's trying to pre-handle a partner objection, right? He's trying to figure out what does his wife do for a living, how much money they would make, estimate that to find how, okay, if this guy doesn't have the money, I'm going to get the wife on board into the sales process and actually sell both of them.
She just picked up a job with Apple doing online customer service in Japanese. She's a Japanese national.
Oh, she is. Okay.
Yeah.
So this job that you've had, do you like what you're doing for a living?
What is that? Now we're going to the problem awareness phase of NEPQ. Do you like what you're doing for a living? So in a biz op recruitment MLM type of sale, you would ask that. Now, if you're selling other offers, I'm not gonna go into every single example, but let's say if you're selling like a weight loss, if they're doing like P90X, you would typically go, is that is that working? Or how's that working out for you? Because what is the prospect gonna say? They're typically gonna say, yes, it's working. And later on, you're gonna see how he handles that. Or he's gonna say, the prospect's gonna say, no, it's not working. Well, I don't like what I do for a living. You simply go, why not? And the prospect will tell the problem. I'm not making enough money. I don't have enough time, so on and so forth. If you break down how Jeremy is asking, it looks very extra, right? Do you like what you're doing for a living? The reason why he's asking it that way, even though it seems super extra, is because do you pause, ... do you, like skeptical? If you look at his facial expression too, he's a bit skeptical. He's curious and a bit skeptical. Like, do you like it? Because what this gonna, if you ask it like, do you like what you're doing for a living? The prospect's really not gonna open up. There is a knee-jerk question, as Jeremy would call it. You get a knee-jerk reaction, which is like, yeah, I like it. So you don't really get an in-depth answer. But if you drag it out like that, in a more, when you're trying to get the prospect to open up more, you won't have to have them go deeper. That's what you want to do. Now, when I first getting trained by Jeremy, this is how I would ask it. Do you like, I first modeled after that, and it would get me to a certain point, right? Prospect started giving me a bit of a problem. However, me personally, I felt a bit awkward and a bit weird asking it that way because I never talk like that in real life. Whenever I'm talking to my friends, family, or my girl, whoever it may be, or just, random people, I don't really talk like that. I go like, okay, you like it? That's more how I say it, right? And so I saw at the time the CEO of 7th level, Matt Ryder, ask it this way. As Hormel just says, first we model after and then we modify, right? I modeled after exactly how Jeremy asks it. And then I went like, okay, you like it? And so when I did that, I still got the benefit of the whole point of the question, which is, you like it? Of have them uncovering the problem while feeling more natural of how I talk. But if I first straight into the way I want to do it, then I would not be able to replicate it that well, right? Because obviously there's a reason why this thing is working. So you take what's working and then you model after that. That's how I did it.
Oh, I love what I'm doing.
What do you like about it? What do you enjoy?
So now he's gonna go into the two truths. First, if they say, oh, I do like it, he's gonna ask, what do you enjoy? To get them talking about the positive, to kind of let their guard down. And then later he's gonna go into what they don't enjoy.
Well, I have been fascinated by the street gang lifestyle, and I have been able to accomplish training and expertise in that field.
You see how he's doing the back channels? Okay.
Foremost gang expert in the state of Alaska.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
And so I do training.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
I do validations.
It shows that you're engaged in the conversation.
Court expert, witness.
Okay.
I just love that kind of work.
You do. So, I mean, to me, it sounds like things are going
Here's a two truths question.
fairly well for you. I mean, is there anything you would change about what you're doing if you could?
What's the whole point of the question? There's different speculation of who came up with this question. I believe a gentleman named Michael Oliver originally came up with it. I don't exactly know. But, okay, it sounds like it's going fairly well. I mean, is there anything you would change about this or that if you could? Because the whole logic behind the question is that nobody is 100% satisfied with whatever they got going on. Nobody's 100%. There's something, right? This guy's saying like, yeah, I enjoy the work, but I'm sure there's something. Like, nobody. I love this apartment. The balcony, the view's nice and things like that. But at one point, I'm like, man, I wish it was a bit bigger, more space. Always. So that's the whole behind it. And then once they start to talk about what's missing or the problem, Jeremy's going to probe deeper into it.
Last April, they closed down the gang task force, and I've been moved back to patrol.
Okay.
And there have been a series of shootings and homicides involving gangs, and I'm a little frustrated.
He's going to probe into the frustrated.
What do you mean by frustrated?
Bang, there we go. So whenever you find an emotional keyword like frustrated, stressed out, anxious, you want to probe deeper into that, because otherwise prospect may just move on and not really expand on it. You go like, oh, what do you mean frustrated? And so some people may say like, oh, but isn't that cutting them off? Isn't that not good? Isn't that rude? Yes, if you fuck it up. So depending how the execution, if you go like, oh, what do you mean frustrated? What? Like if you sound like you actually don't want to know, if you like abruptly do it, then yeah, they're gonna feel like you're cutting them off. But if you go in a way like, oh, what do you mean frustrated? So you kind of lube it up with the, oh, what do you mean by frustrated? And then you ask in a concerned, curious tone, you come off like you actually want to know. And the prospects, oftentimes, like they don't care that you technically cut them off. They want to expand on that because they want to talk about what? Themselves, right? And if you come up like you're actually interested and want to know, they're going to keep opening up.
Administration has decided we don't have a gang problem, so they're not doing anything to address it.
Has that had an impact on you?
Probing question.
Well, it has. It's been stressful.
In what way? There we go.
Well, I've had a lot of news reporters that I've known over the years that have asked for my opinion, and when I've given my opinion, I've been on the wrong side of the administration and things like that.
By the way, you hear the Skype noise? That's how old this call is. It's not even on Zoom, on Google Meet. It's on Skype, back when Skype was a thing.
So as far as you starting your own business? And maybe you could
So the prospect is opening up about the problem within the work.
tell me, just so I can kind of, see the rationale. But
He's going to go into the rationale question.
besides some of this, these changes in the, where you're working at in the administration, I guess what's the main reason why you're, looking for your own business rather than just finding a better type of job?
So Jeremy's asking, hey, what are you looking at this solution that you're coming to us for rather than alternative solution? The reason why Jeremy's asking this question is because he's trying to pre-handle an objection. Because an example, this guy could later, what's an objection that this guy could do at the end, right? He could go, well, I guess, yeah, like the homicides are a bit frustrating, but maybe I'll go get another job. He could do that, right? Either he says it or not. He thinks it, but he doesn't tell you. So what Jeremy's doing is asking this question. That way the prospect says it himself, why that's not a viable option, why he doesn't want to go get another job and he wants to start a business instead, which is what Jeremy's trying to sell him here. So how I look at objection is this. A lot of people look at like, oh, handle the objections, like do the fancy reframes, at the end. Those things are great, get better at that. But how I look at the whole call is pre-handling as much as objections as much as possible in the discovery process, as well as the pitch as well. So by the end, there's little to no objections left at all. The analogy I always give is imagine, and I heard this from Matt as well. What we want to do is imagine you go into a room, and there's a bunch of different doors, exits a prospect could exit out of. And each of those doors is a potential objection, okay? They could say, that's a lot of money, I'm a bit scared. I don't know, maybe I'll go get another job. Maybe I gotta talk to my wife. Maybe I should wait until later. So what our job is before the price drop, before we say, hey, it's this much, we have the prospect shut all those doors as much as possible. We have the prospect shut those by asking the right question. So the desired answer Jeremy's trying to get here is like, well, I don't want to get another job because it's still not gonna give the freedom that I want. So he said it. Whatever we say as salespeople, we are biased. Whatever we say is garbage. What the prospect says is gospel. All we do is asking the right questions at the right time so the prospect says it themselves, not to us, but to themselves, why that is not a viable option, okay?
I have always kind of wanted to be on my own. I want to be my own boss. Okay, I don't want to have to answer to somebody else's ideas of what I should be doing.
Jeremy's going to ask why.
Why now, though?
Why now?
Yeah. The reason why he's asking why now is to obviously add more urgency and have this prospect plant the idea and convince himself even more, explain. Because whenever I have a reason why, it becomes more persuasive on why he needs to act now and later.
Because I think after, 51 years of life and working for 30 plus years for other people, I'm ready to be on my own.
Okay, time to make a change possibly.
Yeah, time to make a
commitment question. And the prospect saying, yeah, time to make a change. He's convincing himself more why he should make a change, aka buy later.
Now, hey, before you found us here,
he's going into solution awareness phase now.
With and everything, were you out there looking for, businesses you could start to make, to do these things, or what were you doing about finding your own business to be your own boss?
Why did Jeremy ask that question? Is to find out, okay, what are the other options he's considered? Because if he doesn't address that later on, that's going to be an objection. Hey, listen, I looked at other companies before. Whereas if you found out what other options they looked at, you could probably pre-handle that in the discovery or the pitch, how your solution is different to this and why that solution may not be the best solution. Or if this guy tried something in the past, Jeremy would want to know as a sales rep, okay, why do you believe that didn't work out? Because if you present your solution, aka the pitch later down the line, but you didn't address why the prospect believes why what they tried in the past did not work, then they're going to be like, I don't know, I think I tried something similar before, so I don't think this will work either. But if you found out, as an example, maybe let's say they tried trading before, right? Trading Forex and things like that. And you ask them, why do you feel like that didn't work? I think it was too risky. Then later on, you can position your pitch as like, hey, you know how you tried trading, it was too risky. You need like 200 grand in startup capital. Yeah. So how this business is different is that you don't need any startup capital and it's a lot more safe and risk adverse because of XYZ reason to pre-handle that objection. You see how that works?
Well, I have actually explored opening a restaurant, cooking Japanese ramen.
Okay.
I have reached out to a couple of franchises. One being a
Did you actually start one of those?
So he's clarifying because he said the prospect, I'm looking into it. So did he try it or not?
Did you actually start one of those or just look?
Because if he didn't try anything, why not? Why didn't he try anything? That could be an objection.
Look at it.
No, I just explored it. The overhead that was required was beyond my means at the time.
Well, let's do this. I guess just to see if what we're doing here would actually work for you. But, besides you wanting something where you can, be your own boss, something where you're on your own, what exactly are you looking for, here in your business? I mean, what would be like your ideal criteria?
That's called an ideal criteria question, still in solution awareness, understanding what is his ideal solution. Now, why would we want to know that? Because we want to find out what is their unideal solution, what is the ideal solution they're looking for. Because later in the pitch, we're going to speak to their specific needs or what they believe is the needs, right? So they feel like, I was exactly looking for this, but they told us, right? I love this phase because, you're able to see the future and then you can just tailor it for them specifically. But if you don't go over this, then later you just present a generic solution in the pitch, then they may be like, I don't know if this is what I'm looking for because I'm looking for this, but they don't really talk about that. They may not even tell you. They may just say, let me think about it. But it could have just like one simple question, understanding what they're looking for, and you presented the pitch.
Well, I want to be able to work from home.
Okay.
I want to be able to
Back channel, okay.
set my own hours.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to achieve or exceed my current amount of income.
So more money, right?
More money, absolutely.
Okay.
I watched my dad work for 40 years as a dentist.
Okay.
And then his practice burned down, and the only thing he had for retirement was the insurance settlement.
Okay. What about this? And I think a lot of this because you've gone through like 5.5 steps or something I've had you gone through, not quite all 6, but what if you could do a business where, you would work from your home like you had mentioned, and you would mainly work off like your computer, your telephone that you have. Now, you're not going to have employees per se like a traditional business does. But you are going to have others, let's say assisting you in running your business. And I'll give you an example of that. If the business resonates with you here, I'm going to be the person that does work directly with you. I didn't know if you're aware of that.
Okay. No, that sounds great, actually.
Well, unfortunately, you get stuck with boring old me. So I do that.
So he's downplaying it a little bit?
Actually on a one-on-one basis for a lot of reasons. Okay?
While also, it's interesting what he did was he downplayed it while also increasing his authority, right? So if you look at, you're going to be working with me. So you don't come off as just like a sales rep, you come off as almost like one of those authorities. You didn't say that, hey, I'm like one of the coaches. But you're coming off as like, okay, this guy, it's not just like a sales rep, it's like he has some sort of authority here while also downplaying. If you just downplay it, in a way that is just like self-deprecating the whole time, then you decrease your status. But the name of the game for Jeremy's entire life is just status framing, whether in sales or anything else. Second thing is disarming the fuck out of the prospects. So that's what Jeremy's doing here. So you're stuck with boring old me. So he's disarming, he's laughing again.
The main reason is to make sure that when you're working with me that you're actually making profits from what we're doing. You're making a sustainable income, but I'm not going to be considered your employer. Would that be of interest to you?
Yeah, I understand.
This is a more advanced concept. So it's in the discovery, he's kind of doing a mini pitch here. I wouldn't recommend this to more people. But what he's doing is he's basically seeding the idea to the prospect that this is the ideal solution they mentioned. That's what kind of they're going to get, right? Yeah, so you're not going to have any employees. Nobody wants to have employees, especially people in a 9-to-5 job, right? Because there's too much for them. So I'm going to be working with you. I'm going to be training you, but I'm not going to be your employer. And so people want to be trained. They want to have the safety net. It's like, is someone going to help me? Someone's going to support me. But they don't want to feel like they have another boss because that's what this guy mentioned. It's like he doesn't want to have a boss. So what Jeremy's doing here is basically giving them all the things that the prospect wants.
Yeah, it's going to be like a partnership you'll have directly with me if you would like that.
Absolutely.
You're okay with that?
If you would like that. But he knows that's what he would like.
Well, and a little bit more about my background, just real quick. I have a master's degree in management.
Okay.
I almost achieved a master's degree in Homeland Security.
Right.
The program got changed a little bit, so I wasn't successful in completing that.
Right.
I've taught for 4 years at Charter College as an adjunct professor teaching criminal justice.
Okay, so you've done quite a bit. Hey, Scott, can you hold on 1 second?
Sure.
Hold on just 1 second. You guys notice I'm using this pen that's like 50 cents instead of my $1,500 pen or $2,000 pen? Crazy. He was on mute, by the way. What do you guys think so far? Okay. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's something that he can do to help him getting where he's wanting to go, but let's find out. I mean, I really don't know. We got a few more questions for him. Scott, are you still there?
Yep, I sure am.
I apologize.
No, that's fine.
Tell me about this income, though. You had mentioned that you wanted to make more money.
Now he's going to future pacing.
And I've never been involved in the type of work you're doing, all that stuff. But I've had some family members in the police force as well. But as you know, like you said, when you're working for someone else, sometimes you're, let's say, fairly limited on what they're going to want.
He paused there on purpose. So sometimes you're fairly limited in your income when you're working for somebody else. So he did that, again, to come off less scripted. But what he's doing here, essentially, he's going to ask him having the extra money, what would that allow him to do, the prospect? Because at that point, he's going to create more desire and more of a gap in the prospect's mind. It's like, oh man, it would be awesome being able to spend more time with my family, being able to retire my wife, which makes him want to buy the product or solution more, aka buy later.
Correct.
Without that limit there, what would you want to make here in your business here? I mean, what would be like your ideal income annually? What would you really want to make?
I mean, I've always dreamed of being able to make in excess of $250,000 annually.
250? Now,
Yeah.
hey, between what you and your spouse make together now, how close are you to $250,000 a year?
Also, if you notice, as soon as Jeremy got the answer he needed to get from that specific question, he did not let the prospect keep rambling on. Because the question was what? Question was, how much would you like to make? And the prospect goes like, $250,000. And he was about to start rambling. And Jeremy is like, okay, 250K. Now, you see how he went in before the prospect could go in? Because otherwise the prospect's gonna ramble on and on and on, which obviously the call's gonna go south, kind of go out of nowhere. Could you still contain it? Yes, but ideally contain it. As well as the call time's gonna go longer, which means less time for objection handling and onboarding. As well as you just feel more drained as the call going longer. Jeremy's calls are very, very short. With this call, I don't know exactly when he's gonna pitch, but it's like 19 minutes long, right? Most people for this type of products to sell, they pitch around like minute 30. But Jeremy usually, probably gonna pitch around like minute 10 or 15.
We're at about 180.
Okay, so you're about a little bit over halfway there then. Said 75, 80%. So if you stay in that job, and Scott, like I said, just be completely realistic with me.
Sure.
Realistically, how many years would it take you before you were making just yourself $250,000 every single year?
I couldn't achieve it.
Why?
There's no way.
So what Jeremy's trying to do is, again, we talked about having the prospect shut the exit doors, right? So the prospect could go, I was like, maybe I'll just stay in my job and just maybe get a promotion. So how long would it take, or how close are you to making that $250,000 a year with your current job? And the prospect goes, oh, it's not achievable. Boom. He had the prospect shut that door, and Jeremy's gonna say, why is that? To have the prospect explain, not to Jeremy, but to himself, why that is not a viable option.
Why?
Because there's just not enough hours to work to make that level of income.
Let's say that we got you up to $250,000 a year here. What would you do with it?
Well, I would want to set myself up with investments such that I'm not going to have to worry about my income in retirement.
That's important to you.
I think that's the most primary one.
Okay.
Secondary to that is I want to make sure that all my debt is paid off. I then want to help. I would love to help my children with education.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So as the prospects opening up about these things, they're getting more and more emotional, aka have more urgency to actually move forward with this.
My wife and I, we want to travel.
Do you? What?
And he's picturing this thing too visually in his head.
So you've been able to do those things. I mean, what would that do for you personally?
He's going to get a more emotional response.
Well, I've done a lot of studying about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and that self-actualization is something I want to achieve. I want to be able to do what I want, when I want to, how I want to. And having that income structure behind me to allow that is important.
How would it be different, though? I mean, you making that money, how would your life be, let's say, maybe, different than it is now?
He asked another probing question because the prospect gave a bit of a surface answer. It's like, Maslow's hierarchy. It's like a technical thing. So Jeremy just asked the same question in a different way to get a more emotional response from the prospect.
Oh, it would be stress-free.
There we go. Stress-free, emotional response.
In what way?
Well, right now.
And then Jeremy goes, in what way, to have the prospect expand on that?
I have an Excel spreadsheet and I use Quicken, and I am constantly worried about where the money's going to go, how I'm going to pay off this bill, how I'm going to achieve this retirement level, how am I going to get my kids through school? I mean, that is a huge stressor in my life.
How long have you had this stress in your life?
Oftentimes, they'll tell you a bit about the problem, but they're not going to fully open about the full extent, because at that point, we're probably like 3 to 5 minutes in, right? 2 to 5 minutes into the interaction. And especially in this case, it's a follow-up call, but you're probably going in with a prospect that just talked to and seen you and met you for the first time. And so for a lot of people, they may tell you something, but they still need a bit of comfort and trust for them to open up. Now, at this point, we're about 10, 15 minutes in for most people's case. Now, when you ask, even if you ask about, hey, how would life be different? What would you be able to do? This is when they start to go about like the more emotional problems, deeper shit that they haven't told you prior. It's like this guy saying like, yeah, like we don't have worry and like stress free. He didn't really go to that extent earlier. But at this point, why? Because, well, they've been spending more time with you and you've been asking skilled questions. They feel more comfortable around you to open up about deeper. So what Jeremy's doing here is, as he gets more deeper information that he hasn't gotten before, he's probing deeper into that by going like, oh, stress in what way? How long has that been going on for? To have the prospect get more emotional, have more urgency with solving the problem.
My entire life.
What's it doing to you?
It's creating all kinds of medical problems.
Is it? In what way?
Right now, I spend 3 days a week going through various physical therapy and whatnot. I go to the chiropractor 3 times, massage, I do acupuncture, I do, all kinds of stuff to try and maintain some semblance of sanity.
Can I ask you something else?
You see how that got deep?
That's here, Scott.
Sure.
And by all means, I don't want to offend you when I ask, because
He's going to go into the consequence question now.
I've enjoyed our conversations we've had each day, but what are you going to do here if nothing changes? If you just stay in this job you have now the next 5 or 10 years?
Now, what is the whole point of asking that question? The whole point of asking that question is because human beings don't do things, or not at the speed they could be, unless there's a fucking consequence and a cost, okay? So imagine school, and the teacher says, all right, guys, do the homework, and there's no consequence. Nobody's gonna do their fucking homework. But if the teacher goes, all right, guys, do the homework. If you don't, then you don't pass the grade, and your parents are gonna spank you. They're gonna be like, okay, now I might wanna do the thing. Just like how an overweight person, they'll eat donuts, not go to the gym, keep procrastinating, until the doctor goes, hey, one more donut, you have a heart attack, you're gonna die. Then you're like, oh shit, let me take this serious. But until then, people don't. So what the consequence question does is it instills an immense level, as long as you execute it properly, an immense level of fear of future pain, an immense level of urgency. Again, as long as you execute it correctly. So Jeremy is gonna do that now.
I think if things are laid out properly, if I am able to manage my investments and stay in the job I'm in, I should be able to retire at age 55.
Are you willing to settle for that?
No, absolutely not. That's why I'm going through this program. I know that there is the ability to achieve something better.
So it's important for you to do something then?
Oh, absolutely.
So finding a business, is it something you're looking for now, or I mean, when do you want to find?
He's going to the why now question again.
A business to make more money?
Right now.
The prospect sounds like right now, which obviously prevents the prospect later going saying like, oh, let me think about it, now's at the right time. Because if you look at the whole call, Jeremy keeps having this prospect say, right now, right now, right now, not later, right now. Just in different ways, right? Yeah, he's been doing a phenomenal job in terms of not being repetitive while still getting the prospect to keep saying like, I need to change, I need to change, I need to change.
Because based on what you've told me,
he's gonna transition into the pitch.
Here, what we're doing might actually work for you. Because you're saying that you want to find a business where you can make more money. You had talked about $250,000 a year, and right now there's been some changes in the administration, your work, and because of that, it's caused you to feel a little bit of stress sometimes.
Yep.
This is what I do. So this is basically how it's going to work for you. Now you know some of this because you've gone through, like I said, you're about halfway through step 6. But like you read on there, I have the business here. I started doing this type of business just like a normal member like you about 8 years ago. And my first year, I think I sent it to you, but I made a little bit over $600,000 my first 12 months. Are you okay with those numbers?
That's a rhetorical question. He already know the answers. He already know what kind of answer the prospect's gonna give. Right? Yeah, it's $600,000 in my first year. Everybody's gonna say, "Oh shit, I'm okay with that."
Oh, absolutely.
Now, like you read, I make 4 times that amount per year now, but that's what he did the first year. Now, really, what that means to you is that you can do the same thing. There's really not a difference. You can work from home like we do. Now, obviously, you have to start kind of part-time until you're making more money than.
So one thing I would be careful with that. You can do the same thing. For compliance reasons, we actually want to stay away from that. Okay. Obviously, Jeremy's phenomenal at what he does from a compliance standpoint. We don't want to say, hey, you're gonna make 600 grand a year. You can do the same thing. We actually want to shy away from it. We always want to say, hey, listen, that doesn't mean you're going to do that. Results vary based on the fact that skills, work ethic, and ability to follow instructions. But I'm giving some data points here. That's a more safer way to do it. We do not want to fuck with compliance. It's a bit of a dangerous thing to do. Okay, just for your aware.
Your job, then you won't have to do that anymore. And the reason why I told you that, in our business model, like you've been reading so far, we have a system that you'll follow. Four-step system where the phone sales team, and you haven't learned this yet all the way, but the phone sales team will actually call all of your leads that we help you set up, and they will actually make the sales for you, the license sales for you. So because of that factor alone, it means virtually anybody can run the business now.
So what he's doing here is he's making it seem like as easy as possible. Everybody can do it, which is especially on a biz op sale like this, like 9-to-5 people, they have a lot of fears. Like, can I do this? I don't have any experience. So with that type of sale, he knows that, okay, I gotta make it sound easy and doable. That way they actually wanna do it.
Basically allow you to have a business, but a business where you can get your income, up to this range, this $250,000 range. But like you'd also said, be able to have more time to travel with your wife, be able to help your kids out, but also be able to reduce some of the stress you've accumulated on.
So he's tying it back to the outcome that this gentleman wants. So oftentimes sales reps getting caught up in like, oh, this many coaching calls, you get the defining the units and da. Very, very technical. But we also want to tie it back. It's during the pitch and we train our members inside of real sales on the same thing too. It's a combination of, it's got to logically make sense in the prospect's mind how this thing works, just enough, as well as emotionally going over the pains and the desires. So you know how he mentioned that, our agents call the leads for you. So what that means is that, well, you can actually spend more time with your family and actually get rid of some of the stress that you've been talking about. So he's tying it back to what that means for him. Don't get caught up in like how many coaching calls, how many course material, one-on-ones, Those things are great. Go over that. Always tie back to how does that help him achieve the emotional outcomes that this guy wants.
Your shoulders.
Absolutely.
Does that feel as though it might be maybe what you're looking for in a business?
Absolutely.
Why do you feel like it is though?
So what he just did, we're going to commitment phase now. It's like, do you feel like this could be the answer for you? Do you feel like this could help you get to where you're wanting to go? So you got to do a temperature check of like, does this prospect believe that this could help them or not, right? Because if they don't, obviously they're not going to buy. And then later on, or right after, he just went, why do you feel like it is though? In a curious manner, the prospect's gonna clarify and tell himself, this is exactly what I'm looking for, here's the reason why, which increases the chance of him moving forward and buying.
I think the one thing that really strikes me more than anything else is the ability to be my own boss.
Okay, that's
because I know you're still going to be a mentor, and I have certain steps I have to follow.
Right.
But it's still up to me how much I put into it and how much I get out of it.
Very good point. Now, tell me this. So here's what I want you to do. Did you get on the JT to Bulk training call today?
No, I missed it. I've listened to the archive though.
Oh, what did you learn?
Well, I think that there's just a whole lot about.
So after this, what Jeremy does is he books a next call, I believe, just because of the sales process. On most calls, we're talking about remote high ticket sales as an example, right? In this industry, you probably do a one call, which means that instead of going to the next call, you're just gonna drop the price, okay? So you're like, okay, that makes sense. After the prospect goes like, yeah, I believe this can work because I can be my own boss, Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, the funding required for you to actually be that father and husband, spending more time with your family, is this amount. So is 5K, 10K, whatever it may be, and then where would you like to go from here? How would you like to proceed from here? And then after that, the prospect move forward, or they give an objection and you handle that. Now, if you're a sales rep selling in traditional industries like door-to-door, B2B, and you want to transition into a better industry where you could potentially earn more as well as being able to do it remote, have more freedom, and potentially get into remote high-ticket sales, I broke down a video of how that industry works and how to break into it. So you can go to the first link in the description box below. Now, if you're already in remote high-ticket sales and you want to increase your commission to 10K, 20K a month commission, so on and so forth, I put together a mini course. It's 7 hours long. It's one of the most popular videos on this channel. That's going to be the second link in the description box below. You can go check it out there.